he's finally gone, and all I had to do was nothing. Do you know that guy at work that everyone hates? The rude, obnoxious, lazy one that no one quite understands how he still has a job? Well, mine's name was Bob. For months Bob partnered himself up with me with a lovely 90-10th split of the work. Anytime I called out on it he got more and more obnoxious, and if it was actually possible did less and less work. On top of all of his other charming traits, Bob is an absolute phone addict. This is bad enough in a regular setting. Where we work it's actually very, very dangerous not to be paying attention to what's going on around you. I've mentioned this to Bob repeatedly to no avail, even after he was nearly hit by a forklift and almost had his head smacked by a robot. Our manager at the time said, if you're stupid enough to die because you wouldn't put your phone down, no one's going to miss you, and ignored the behavior. My last straw at even attempting to get this guy to work and be safe was him snapping off "leave me alone" about my ducking phone. Well, we just got a new manager, partially because of our former manager's attitude towards safety issues, partly because of poor performance. The new manager had a quick, to-the-point meeting at the beginning of our shift and stated very clearly, "I see your phone, you're fired. No excuses, no exceptions." Bob missed this meeting because he was running late, again. About 2 hours later I see the new manager walking to our area. Bob as usual was head down staring at his phone. Remember when he specifically said to leave him alone about his ducking phone? Well, that's exactly what I did. Our new boss wound up standing behind him for a solid 3 minutes before Bob even noticed he was there. Bob was promptly escorted to HR, and I was apologized to by the new manager, because I'd have to run the work area solo until a replacement was found. No big loss. The extra 10% is well worth knowing that guy won't be around anymore. Guess no one at that job will bother him about his dang phone again. TLDR, workplace phone addict snaps to leave him alone about his phone, so I did. Now he's fired and I'm grateful. Update: a lot of you were very worried that I would be stuck running a two-man job solo for an extended period of time. I just want to let you all know that Bob's replacement was less than a full shift away. So far, so good. Not to mention I'm getting trainer pay until he is up to speed. Edit: just for clarity, the no phone policy wasn't new. It is in our employee handbook and we have signs posted around the shop floor about no cell phones in the work area. The only change was a manager that took the rule seriously. Now to the comments. Your former manager deserved to be let go. I worked with a group of construction guys in a tight-knit community once upon a time, and the manager was absolutely rabid about following safety precautions to the letter. It seems a couple years prior, he allowed an employee a little grace in being slightly lax on security procedures, and that employee died in a workplace accident, and he said he will never forgive himself for the way his friend's widow looked at him at the funeral. Now when the guys groan about safety, he just tells them, "Shut up, sit down. Listen. Learn. Follow. I promise you that I will fire all of you before I risk burying one of you." They believed him. We ran a very safe shop. OP replied, "I'm an extremely safety and security-minded person, leftover effects from being a prison guard once upon a time. Safety rules are there because something happened, and can happen again. I never want it to be me, or anyone I work with." My dad, an OSHA inspector who investigated more than his share of workplace fatalities, used to say that every stupid OSHA regulation has a fatality or serious injury behind it. Just keep in mind, if it appears that you can run your work area solo and effectively have been for some time, that replacement will likely never materialize. Why pay two people when one will work twice as hard? OP replied, "It's not actually going to be a problem with where I work, even though I'm capable of doing 100% of the load, but corporate knows it's not feasible to do long term. There are mandatory staffing requirements for every work area." What's the mandatory staff requirement? Well, 1, I suppose. I read this on my phone at work. Look behind you quick, Perhaps your boss has been standing there for a few. I hope not. I'm pooping while reading this in my phone at work. Glad the new manager followed through on that threat. Sounds like he likely saved everyone from a serious workplace injury. My only question is, if he wasn't at the meeting, didn't he still deserve the first warning like everyone else? Meeting was during his scheduled shift. It was his responsibility to find out what he missed while being late. No lie, after paragraph 2 I thought you had gotten rid of Bob with a permanent solution. I'm actually glad that Bob just got fired, and not got killed. OP replied. I'm glad he didn't die too. We've had a few workplace injuries because of carelessness, not wearing protective gear, not paying attention etc. He was one mishap from seriously ducked. Glad it'll have to happen somewhere else. Well written, no obtuse acronyms, contains actual MC, upvote. Written like a true MC sommelier. Had a former colleague who always coming late every day. I work 8 to 5 every day with only a day off, and that guy always come at 1 or 2 p.m. Sometimes he will come at 9 and leave at 2 p.m. Every day. My boss found out and he got fired right away. 8 to 5 every day vs 1 or 2 p.m. Oh, that's not late, that's more than half of the shift. It is. He worked only for 2 to 3 hours a day and remaining hours on the phone or watch YouTube. Me and other colleagues had dinner to celebrate him being fired. It always amazes me when employers don't take workplace safety seriously. Do they not know they can be held personally responsible? That goes for non-managers too. If you know about an unsafe situation and don't report it, it's your ass when something goes wrong. First afternoon of every onboarding in industrial environments should be mandatory watching of live leak industrial accidents videos. Mine was my manager. He was awful, never bothered to learn the job, so you could never escalate a query, basically sat in his chair lording it over us all day. Anyway, at the time I was also a union rep and asked for time off for a disciplinary, and he said only if I hit target that day. So, in front of the whole team, I said that's not how it works, either I can have the time off or I can't. They need to know today to sort cover if I can't go. His face was an absolute picture as my whole team and the surrounding teams looked between us. He eventually capitulated and I went to the meeting. The following week we had a sudden restructure of the teams. He was no longer my manager. He didn't last much longer in the role either. Good riddance, I say. I like how the new manager waited a few minutes. You can't even attempt the I was only checking a quick text from the wife excuse if your face is buried in the screen for 3 minutes. OP replied. I thought it was classy as well. Holy God, for a large part of that story I thought you knew my ducking lazy phone addicted Bob in a factory setting where he is hated and the plant manager got fired several months ago. I realize this won't mean anything to anyone. I was honestly just so shook I couldn't not document the moment. There should be a subtitled "Enough rope to hang himself." This is Bob. Bob never puts his phone down. Bob could have died. Don't be like Bob. I really hope you stood there, you and your new manager eyeing each other, and eyeing Bob, both waiting for him to notice. I did that with my supervisor. Most satisfying thing I've ever been a part of, watching him turn around and just go pale LOL. If you hook me up with a 30% raise, I'll run it solo for the rest of the year. It'll make your numbers look great. I will never be able to understand how people don't get the basic concept of it's work time. Put your phone down. They totally wreck it for us that would like to be able to answer the odd call or reply to text from family because the boss has had to go all no phones. I was working with a guy once whose job was literally to look around for things, stared at his phone for 50% of the time, so my team ends up looking like shit. How is it not obvious to put the thing away? Safety rules are written in blood. Sometimes more than once. The good thing about safety issues like that is, especially if you can verify you've warned/informed the employee, if something happens to them and they get injured, it's on them. Granted, however, there ideally should be a paper trail including disciplinary write-ups and such, in case said employee tries to pursue legal action. Ladders. When you see the word ladder, think self-harm device. But tell someone they should not balance on the top 2 steps and you get I know what I am doing. The worst I saw when I was doing A/V work, which included those big stage lights in the rafters, was 4 ladders total, 2 as the base, 1 straight across, flat. Final one got you to the lights. I straight up refused to work on that setup. The irony is not lost on me that I am reading this while at work.